Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Beacon, a home for those who have a passion for filmmaking and the unusual. The Haunted Hinsdale House. Those who walk there do not walk alone. Paraware, apparel for the action-seeking paranormal investigator. Dragonfly art and soul for all of your magical, metaphysical, and spiritual needs. Mystery Control, your go-to feed for science, magic, true crime, the paranormal, and so much more. Para-Niagara, one of the top rated destinations in Western New York. The Black Cat Lounge is part of the Paraflix Entertainment Network. Everybody, Tim Shaw here. Thank you for sharing your night with us. I am so thrilled that you are here. Yes, I am. And I got a great fact. My guest tonight, I love. And you know what? I've been dragging my feet. I'm going to apologize to her right now. I'm going to apologize to you because I've been dragging my feet. I kept wanting to bring her on. And then one thing led to another. But she's here tonight. She's actually here. I'd say she's here in the flesh, but listen, it's cyber and you know how all that stuff goes. Anyway, I got to thank everybody that came up and were so kind at the Parapsychon at the Mansfield Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. Amazing. It's just an amazing place, amazing people that were there, amazing organization. That's all I can say is amazing. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I got a chance to go. And I think in my little teaser, I mentioned that I got a chance to talk with Cindy Kaza. And Cindy, we've all worked with like Steve Shippey and all that in the past. Cindy and I share a mentor, Sharon Klingler. I can't believe it. Sharon is the person that pushed my mediumship through the roof with her advanced mediumship classes that I took, and she's worked with her, and it's just great. And you know what? I actually, she is a world-class spirit artist. I've seen people do spirit art. I own a few pieces of spirit art myself. I have one of hers now. She's great. I just love it. I get excited when I come home and I don't even unpack everything, and yet I went and I framed that piece. So I just got to find a new place a great place to put it. So anyways, just a great, great night. So we have a great show. This is a topic that a lot of people really don't understand, and it can be a trigger topic. In the past, we often looked at spirituality, or at least what we all do, as separate cubes, these little cubicles where we were paranormal, where we were metaphysical, where we were into cryptozoology, and we were all part of the galactic family. But we're going to talk about something that is wonderful tonight. We're going to talk about the ascension, the blending, the marrying of everything in order to go and be enlightened. This is a fabulous topic. And we have somebody on here that I can think of no other person who is qualified to talk on this subject as our guest tonight. And just to let everybody know, she is one of the most profound and interesting people that I have met in some time. And we've run into each other on the circuit. We've actually, just kind of get a chance to talk once in a while, but I love her to death. I really do. I love her to death. She's an outstanding medium. Outstanding. She's a true visionary. She is someone who has seen the future of metaphysics and is a mover and a shaker in the blended fields that make up the spiritual world around us. She's heard on the Sacred Code on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. with my good friend, Deb DeRoos. I love Deb. If Deb's listening in, Deb, cosmic hug for you, baby. I love it. I just love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mama Mary Bassett, someone who I've been looking forward to speaking with for some time. Hey, Mary, how are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Another day in paradise, kid. Another day in paradise. I really wanted to sit down and jump into the subject, but what I love to do is I love to learn backstories. I'm one of those people. I think that's like the journalist in me. I think maybe it's I have to know the foundation of everybody. And Dustin Perry will go, Tim, I know already. You know everything about me. I said, no, Dustin, there's still one more thing I got to ask you about your past. So, Mary, so I got to ask you, before we get into such a great topic, what brought you into this world of metaphysics? Because this is something that's very, very important for me to understand the whys and the atmosphere around you that brought you to this point. So what was it? What was that one thing that really sparked your interest and sparked that passion into this whole world?
Well, ever since I was a little girl, just like any medium, we all have those experiences. When I was a teenager, my mom took me to my first psychic fair, and there was no way I was getting a reading from the psychic because I didn't want the psychic to realize all the bad things I was doing as a teenager and my mom find out. So there was no psychic reading for me. But she did get me my first tarot deck, and I started reading from the deck and it was just easy, right? And it was the real deal. I was getting messages, and all of a sudden I was giving other people readings and they were getting messages. Some were kicking me out of their car and making me walk because they didn't like the message. But I think normal life hit about my early 20s. I got married, had kids, got away from it. And then I think like a lot of people, my grandmother passed. And I just started recognizing and seeing things that, just because a physical body is no longer there, it doesn't mean the soul is not. And so I really started delving into the spiritual. And then I got my first reading probably about 6 months after my grandmother passed. And in that reading, they said, you have a very amazing gift. It's going to be up to you if you use it or not. And so after that, I started the spiritual journey. I mostly self-taught, like just the studying and the channeling and the meditation and just being connected fully to God's source.
Now, I have to tell you, I've watched you work. I watched you do a gallery at Old Mill last year in November. Kid, that ain't self-taught. I'm just going to tell you, that ain't self-taught. I enjoyed watching it. It was a little different. Because I love the technique you worked with Brian, and I just thought it was marvelous. Do you think that this how you do your gallery? Do you think that this was inspired, almost like in a trance-like state? Because I was watching you, and it looked as if your face began to go into transfiguration, where it began to change a little bit. Your features changed. It was really fascinating. Do you think it was something, somebody up there going, hey, and let's face it, it could be part of the ascension process too.
It could be. And you're at that gallery, there was one point where, and I remember who the message was for, and it was a mail that came through, but at that point, I did stop it because I felt him completely coming through. And it is a weird feeling because you're kind of just going off, and then all of a sudden you're in this little tunnel and you can still hear everything, but you don't know where you're going. And so I will go into the trance mediumship but I keep it at the automatic writing so that they can't,
Right.
so it cannot be used physically, because doing physical mediumship for me, I just feel like eventually it makes you sick. That you shouldn't do it, because it's it's the frequency. And so if you're
It
pulling
is.
death frequency, then too much of it will hurt you.
Well, we went, and when I was growing up, I mean, of course, I mean, I was brought into this at an early age. And the big thing that like seance was all about was physical mediumship. It was the production of phenomena. And when I do seance, I very seldom allow myself to do any kind of trance work at that time, because it's almost like you have to set, like you said, you have to sidestep. You have to go into that tunnel, and you can hear everything, but your mouth is going, it's on auto drive. And it is like you really you got to have that 100% belief that that you can trust whatever's coming through. And that's a scary thing. And I had some good mentors, but I to this day am a little bit hesitant to do that. So that's why you see when I do mine, I'm running around. But I have to say that you were very impressive. And what I love to watch is I remember I was doing my creeper. I was off to the side, Mary, and I was watching these people's reaction to what was coming through. I go into my friend like this. I poke him. I go, she nailed him. She nailed him, and you did. And you guys were 100% fantastic. So yeah, but the big thing is what people don't realize, just what you said. Physical mediumship will go and exhaust you, and it takes a toll on you physically. And don't let it. And I know for me, when I used to do trance work, and I've done it on the radio when we were at a while ago on Para X. At the end of it, I was just spent. I had nausea. So that's why I don't do it. But anyway, now let's go into the present, the Ascension. Tell everybody what the Ascension is, because I'm just like chomping at the bit to start tearing it apart and understanding it more. So please tell everybody what this is.
So I'm going to tell you the basic of it, and I want to give you a little bit of a backstory with me of how I've kind of stepped into this process.
Please.
So Ascension really is all about remembering who we are on a soul level. For me, delving into it, it is supernatural. And it's sort of like you were saying in your introduction, it's not paranormal, it's not spiritual. And that's because it is. It's exactly supernatural. It's all interdimensional. We have all types of beings that are helping us in this process. For me, because I do my show, and so it was probably February last year. I was playing a regression from somebody who had come in that wanted to explore an experience, and the panel, they were sure that I knew the person because we were so familiar with each other. And it was the first time I'd ever regressed them. And they were determined that my voice had changed. And so that really got me thinking, like, because they wouldn't stop talking about it. So I started asking my guides, I want to remember who I am on a soul level. Why is this connection? Because there was more to that regression. It brought information about me up in that regression. I just won't get into that. It took me about a month with my spirit guides. They kept on telling me DNA activation. It took me a month to realize that they were telling me, if I want to remember who I am on a soul level, do the DNA activation. So I started searching for DNA activations. Couldn't really find anything online, only because it's really, what do you trust? You can download almost anything and it could have a subliminal message. You don't know the quality of it.
Exactly.
So there's a site that I use because they have all sorts of different types of classes called Udemy. And I went on there and I put in DNA activation, and up like pops up alien starseed DNA activation. I'm like, oh, that's right up my alley. So I click on it, and I'd already purchased it 3 years before.
Really?
Yeah, you cannot make it up. That's how stubborn, that's how long it takes me sometimes, apparently, to catch up. But after that, I took the class, and then right after I was done taking the class, somebody reached out to me about an event and wanted to know if I wanted to teach a class there. And I was like, sure. And they're like, what do you want to teach? I'm like, DNA activation. Why not? And so preparing for that, I typed up my own DNA activation. And then one day while I was proofreading it before the class, just to make sure it all sounded correct, I literally actually gave myself the DNA activation. The whole time I was going up through my body, I could just feel everything just expanding.
Mm-hmm.
It just huge vibration. It was amazing. But what I know from that DNA activation is it's like a soul retrieval, right? It's age regression.
Yes.
It took me back to a state of the age of 15 before all the trauma ever hit, all the pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was who I was always meant to be. That's what DNA activation is. And that is what ascension is. So when I think about ascension, I think about ourselves as a little planet, right? And we start off as a soul completely whole. And every time we have trauma, every time we have pain, it chips away at a piece of our soul, and it floats off.
Mm-hmm.
So what DNA activation actually does is it draws back all those scattered pieces of our soul and integrates it and helps us release it. And that's the first stage. The second stage, through my last year of my own journey and my own healing and developing my own healing for myself, it all takes place completely in the nervous system, completely in the DNA. And what ascension is clearing out our nervous system and clearing out that trauma so we can remember who we are as a soul level. We were never meant to be a 7 chakra system. We were meant to be a 12 chakra system. We were just between the negative agendas, the evil entities, the spiritual warfare, whatever you want to call it. They have been dumbing down our system for thousands of years. And that's what ascension is so important, is by healing our nervous system and remembering who we are, so does Earth. And she heals. And then we move into a collective unit of peace. And that's whether people are ready or not, they'll all move just a little bit at their own level. But if we can get enough people to shift majorly, it's you save the world. That's just my opinion of what ascension is. I don't think it's moving to a whole new planet. I think, 5D and New Earth really is just completely embodying yourself as a sovereign God source self. And the more we do that, the more everybody can have abundance.
I agree 100%. Now, what I found very, very interesting is when you talked about during phase 1, the fractionation of the soul and soul retrieval. I took a class. Actually, I won't lie to you, Mary. I snuck into a class when I was up at the Omega Institute at Rhinebeck, and Sandra, oh God, I can't think of her name now, but I was going to say Bergman, but that's not who it is. She had a class on soul retrieval, and she had talked about how the human soul during times of trauma just explodes sometimes. And we walk around with that. And that is what really just drags us down. And you need to be able to go through a shamanic practice. Ingerman is her last name, Sandra Ingerman. Through shamanic practices to spiritually, physically grab these pieces of soul and bring it back in order to get it to back, everything to be back into completion before our spirituality can evolve onward. And that to me was always something that was just amazing. Now, let me ask you, when this first started, physically, how did you feel? Because you described a lot of what I went through back when I was using the old Sahara isolation tanks on a regular basis. Tell everybody physically what it was like, because it can it's not at all what a lot of people, I think, expect.
For me, because with my DNA activation, I moved through the chakras. So it started with my feet, but it's like this eruption of a vibration, and it's warmth, and it's almost like fire and ice
Right.
all at the same
Exactly.
time. As
Yes.
you move through, it just completely spreads out through your aura. And it's genuinely amazing. And then afterwards, you just feel, it's so hard to explain. You just feel light. So I remember the first reading I did after that DNA activation, I didn't even know what was going on. I went automatically like way up here, and I had all this information coming in, and it did not feel at all like my readings before. And I'm like, I don't even know if this reading's going to be right, but it was just way more open. I don't think I was getting any more information than I'd ever gotten before. I just think it was coming faster.
Exactly. That's what happened with me. And I have to say that it's funny because I always tell people almost across the board, we experience the same things, but we just call it different names. And I remember when I first started out as a kid and all that, you could see aura and you could, you had letterbox and all that. And then all of a sudden, one day it's gone. And your body goes through almost, I always say it's a metamorphosis. I always say that you're changed right to your DNA level. And just like you said, the information, the download comes through quicker. Now, here's something that happens to me that I have to, when I'm doing the readings, that I have to push off to the side. And I have to ask you if this happens to you. I'll be doing a reading and it's, you're in the zone, it's coming through. All of a sudden, it's like somebody turns a second faucet on. And this download of information that's not really associated with who you're working with is coming through. And I always say it's like a channel. It's, and a lot of people know I do channel writing. My Dogma of Me series is all channel. And that's what comes through. All of a sudden, it's like a universal thing. It's almost like the Akashic Records opens up. It's like the universe opens up and says, hey, okay, let's just let this flow. Is that sort of the same thing with you?
Well, yeah, that's why I do the automatic writing, just because of how easily it flows. And I like to do that for the people I read to anyway, because once when you write it all down, there's nothing else. It's just right there. So
Mhm.
it gives them something to take. But everything, yes, just I totally get the feel with the book thing too, because I feel like I'm writing a book. Because when you're sitting with source, that's just what you do. You sit and write. It just
Exactly.
flows so fast that sometimes you have to. Otherwise, it just gets stuck up here and you can't. Causes anxiety.
Do you think everybody now I get this a lot when I'm teaching. Do you feel, they ask me, do you feel that everybody can do what we do or whatever? But when it comes to the ascension, is this an automatic download for some people and other people they have to work at it? Or is it something that if you really want to experience it, you'll experience it?
So I channeled the Galactics earlier,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of get their take on how to explain ascension.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way they described it is ascension is all about divine timing, and like the galactics and the universal energies, the angels that are helping us, their job is to help us move through the shift even while the people can feel the shift happening. unfortunately, a lot of people are going to feel the shift as chaos. We're seeing it right now. The shift is already happening. And
Agreed.
so,
I agree.
like, everything now currently is moving into alignment, they tell me, and everyone is starting to take their places to fulfill their roles. And I think what they're talking about really is the light workers, the ones who bring the light and bring the information.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's really important, like with the sacred code in this show and the other things that I do, is to get that information out and how easy it is to heal yourself. Because the more you heal your nervous system now, when we do feel that final shift, you're just going to flow with the shift. You won't even feel it
Exactly.
because you don't have any resistance.
Exactly. I agree
Yeah.
100%. And by the way, Deb DeRusso's in the room. Just want to tell you, Deb, I
There
love
she
you and
is.
RJ so much. I do. I miss you guys, and I just love you guys. So make sure you tell the wizard that I said his beard is looking excellent. So, but it's amazing because earlier in the show, I had mentioned that the Ascension, in order for it to really work, everything is going to be blended. So that really means that it could be almost individual for every person. Would that be a fair statement?
That's exactly it. It's individual for every person. And as a collective, as each person begins to heal, it naturally is going to raise the vibration and heal
Correct.
the nervous system of Mother Earth. And that is the main goal.
Now,
That's why we see, the wars going on, is because on that spiritual warfare level, they're clearing out, they're on the higher levels, they're clearing out distortion so that the light workers here can do their work.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, which I most likely am, but when we start talking about the Ascension, we talk about the changes that happen within us and outside of us. It's almost as if it's a physical detox as well as a atmospheric, and when I refer to atmospheric, our aura, everything around us, our relationships, it's almost as if it's a detox where we get to the point where we have to shed old ways and sometimes old relationships and old friendships in order to go to clearly see the future for us to be an integral part of what's going on and a part of our own evolution. Would that be like, am I close, Mary, on that?
No, yeah. That's exactly it. Because we have to think about too is, this is all about, healing ourselves, healing Earth, and finally coming together as a collective.
Yes.
And we have to think back to our ancestors. So I'll think about my grandmother. As I heal my nervous system, I'm healing generations of my mother and grandmother. So it's exactly the way you described it. As we move into Ascension, those are all the little layers, all that conditioning, all those things that we're carrying around from past lives, from our ancestors, all that stuff was just an illusion and just a distortion is being carried away. And the beautiful thing is, like, what I've noticed for myself is the more I heal, the more, outside flourishes around me. Or like, I see my daughter, who before couldn't hug, can now cry and hug people.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's just those little things. And it is a very individual level, but on a collective, we are so connected that as we heal individually, everything feels that.
I feel that people do not give enough credit to themselves when they take on the role of self-healing. And I think we're, as a society, and I know men especially, that's something that we never look at. It's something that we're not taught to do. And I think a lot of people may think this is foreign. So let me ask you this. This is something that, again, I'd like to know. when we evolve, when we get into the ascension, we get into this concept. Is it always a cognitive, like, I'm going to do this? I am personally focusing on this myself, or can one day you wake up and it goes on automatic pilot and you wake up and it's like, I'm thinking just that little bit of difference, and every day you evolve more and more?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you have those who start that process and start to manifest the reality and start putting things in place. Then I also think you have those stubborn people who keep on getting signs from the universe about what they're supposed to do and
Well, yeah.
refuse. And then all of a sudden they wake up and it's a drive that can't stop you. And sometimes that's
Right.
the way it is for me, something that I would think I would never be interested in. All of a sudden it's a huge drive. It's a huge drive to remember and to know, because there's a piece of your soul that needs that memory for whatever you're getting ready to go through. So it's,
See, I
yeah.
agree. That's amazing. I love the way you explain that, because that makes so much sense to me, especially in my own personal life, because of the fact that as enlightened as I thought I was at one time, Mary, I'll just put that, because I know nothing now. I really do know I know nothing now, but back then I thought I was enlightened. Uh, this eternal change will always go and take the blinders off, no matter what it is. And it's almost as if the other side, the galactic family, someone is coming down and shaking you, whether you want to do it or not. And in my case, I had to go and be able to just understand that if I just go with that flow and allow that trust to go out there with everyone who is helping me, I'll be okay. Whereas I could have had, because we all have free will, I could have said no, and I'm going to stay right where I am. And I would have stayed there until maybe, my wife hit me in the head with a frying pan or something, and I opened my eyes. So it's so important. Now, everybody talks about, like, during this process, I felt that I had heightened intuition, and I really was able to open up so much more in my own evolution. Is this common? Is this common and when you have somebody who's actually starting to experience this, and they're evolving and they're getting into this and they're opening up, what would you tell them? Because it's got to be, I know I've counseled people who all of a sudden one day woke up and they were like, I saw somebody at the foot of my bed, and after that, they're getting messages. What would you say to them that would come to you and say, listen, I'm kind of afraid, maybe I don't want to do this, this heightened intuition, this heightened consciousness, this sight that I'm getting? What would you tell them?
Now, if they were coming for a DNA activation and they were worried about the outcome, for me, just telling people to set the intention on what they really want to get out of it is key. Unfortunately, when you do wake up and it automatically just snaps on and you're just thrown into it, your best bet is to go find an experienced medium,
right,
to see if they can point you in the right direction for information, because you can shut it down. You can shut it down to an extent.
Right.
You
can ignore it. Yeah.
You just have to learn
Yeah.
it. It's sort of like my daughter wanted a reading from me a couple weeks ago, and I was like, ugh, but I was just like, I just told my guides, don't show me anything that I don't need to know. Let's keep it simple.
Oh my God, yes.
But you totally can do that. But when you have that Kundalini awakening and it's instant, it can be really intense.
Yes.
I've worked with people through regression who went through that, and it was, for them, it was like 4 days of a really bad trip. It throws you for a loop if you don't know what to do with it. And when it comes to that, reach out to a medium and find somebody that can, talk you down or talk you through what you're experiencing.
Yes. That's so true, because yourself, once the door is open, you don't know which way you're going to go, and you do need that guidance. And that's why, you know what, I am highly, highly, highly. Let me just pull this up. I really want everybody to consider coming to this event, and the reason why is because she has got a lineup of some of the most positive and some of the most knowledgeable people anywhere. And if you want to go and learn about evolving more, take the time and go there, because I really think that you'll be greatly, you know what, you'll go there and you'll leave. And the best way I can describe it, Mary, is when I went up to Omega, it took me 2 weeks to come down, because it was a whole new way of thinking and a way of acting, and you know, your entire body has changed. And that's the way I feel that this is going to be. Your event is going to be phenomenal. Now I love this quote, and I got this off your website. Okay, I admit it, I'm not that creative, so I got this off your website, and I really do. I really think it's great. The movement we are building at the Sacred Code is about reclaiming our sovereignty. It's about understanding that you carry a unique frequency that the world desperately needs. When we gather at events, our individual lights merge into a beacon that can be seen across the galaxy. That to me spoke volumes. That's the only way I can even describe it. It spoke volumes. And the reason why I thought it was so important is the fact that, again, Ascension is a blending of everything, of opening up, of acceptance across the board. You may not personally take everything into heart, but you accept everything that everybody believes. And I love the fact that we're able to go and you know, again, you're talking to a guy who used to poo-poo UFOs and all that stuff. Yet I would, as a medium, I don't understand where this came from. That blockage came from probably from the blue hairs that I as early teachers. But it's amazing, because I do feel that there if they're not physical beings, they are frequency, and they are intelligent, and they are coming and sending us wisdom. And I believe that through even these scanner boxes, that we do pick that up. And you don't need a scanner box to do it. You can open yourself up to it. And I do believe that this is wisdom that the ancients, our ancestors, were able to go and access. And do you think that at this day and age that anybody can access that type of information, that type of download? Or do you think that we really have to put the screwdrivers in our ears and really fine tune our our receivers in order to get that?
I think it's a mixture. I think it comes in levels. I don't think you can necessarily just get into the spiritual work or the development work and be instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
You will have probably one gift that stands out and flows, but you're not meant to just have one gift. We're meant to be multidimensional. So we're meant to use all of our senses. So over time, that stuff, after, like with the supernatural, it starts to flow fast because you've integrated all of your gifts. So while one gift might get strong, it takes a while to integrate every single one to be able to, because when we talk about the sovereign self, it's kind of moving through the scales of your chakras to reach your oversoul. So it's the purpose of, raising your vibration so you can remember who you are and connect with your higher self. But you're meant to do it while you're walking on earth.
Correct. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that this, and I mean, we're just using different, it's a battle of semantics. The Ascension, I call it the evolution of the soul, the evolution of the person. Do you feel that we ever stop, or do you feel that it is a lifelong journey that we just it's just a lifelong adventure?
So it's a lifelong adventure, because the way I see it, like with the process, when the soul crosses over, we walk through the light, we take our review, and then we move to, the causal phase. And it's sort of like we process everything energetically. What did we learn? What did I gain from that? What lessons shouldn't I have gone through? And
True.
then when you have all that information, it's sort of like gathered in a file folder. Then you take it back to your oversoul and say, okay, what are we going to do this time around? So it's a continuous evolving evolution to completely get back to who we are as source.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest hurdle that the individual faces in this evolution, in this striving in order to get back to that original source, the original soul?
Belief in the self. And that really is faith and belief. As that's one of our conditionings, in the 3 and 4D is, if we can't feel it, if it's not physical, it doesn't exist.
Right.
When
Exactly.
literally everything around exists, the only thing that's what we've created with our consciousness, right? So it's a total evolution of the soul over many, many, many lifetimes. Some souls are older than others.
Here's a question that it just popped into my head. And this kind of has something to do with it, but it's just for my own satisfaction. We do know, many of us believe that the soul is whole. It may crack off a little bit, and then when we pass away, it kind of regroups. But then there's the other theory of the fractionated soul, where the soul, upon our passing, breaks apart and forms a new soul with all these other little parts, creating a new individual. Do you think that if the latter is valid, that has a lot to do with knowing so many of our past lives, all our experiences, all those innate things that we do that we have no idea, we're naturally good at A, B, and C, yet the nucleus of that soul is still there, but all these little other parts kind of glue together. Do you think that's a fair assessment about what we're doing, or do you think that the soul is 100% whole and then just goes from incarnation to incarnation to incarnation?
Actually, I kind of coincide with your thought as one whole soul with little attachments, but the way I see it actually is we are living the past, present, and future simultaneously. It's nonstop. So, regression work, and we're going to a past life, it's really just a simultaneous time in a different time space. So the way I see it is those little attachments are definitely just other pieces of our soul and other dimensions on parallel universes. That's the way I see it, especially when I do regression work, is we're going to a past life, but it's still in this energetic frequency field. It's just a different dimension.
I absolutely adore the fact that you had said we are living past, present, and future all at the same time. And everything is, time, everybody's like, time is linear, this and that. And it's really not. We don't know what time actually is. And I feel that is when we go and we open ourselves up to the to the whole concept of everything happening simultaneously, which paranormal people really have to grasp that when they start doing EVP work. That's just a caveat. I'm sorry, Mary, I got to throw that out there. But it when you think about it, it then allows you to evolve through learning because of your past and downloads that are happening now that affect how you go and how you work within the future, how you develop into the future. That's what I love. That was you hit the nail right on the head. I was hoping you were going to go in that direction. Time wise, when we start talking about time, do you feel that, especially as someone who does regressions, do you feel that sometimes, unfortunately, there's something psychological in our present brain that will prevent us or stop us from accepting those lessons that we learned in the last lifetime, and now we're repeating them right now, which is retarding our advancement and our evolution?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the important part of regression work when it comes to if somebody wanted to do a past life regression, it really does take them through a past life. But when you tap into the subconscious, you're able to get them into a very deep trance-like state. It gets them out of their own way, but allows them to still safely be there. And that's a really easy time to be able to get in there and help them remove those patterns. There are some people who, no matter what, are going to hold on to a pattern or hold on to trauma because it feels safer to them to instead of feeling that raw emotion.
Correct.
So some people just choose to stay stuck. Hi, Frank.
Listen, he's hopping on here because he knows that that you're here, and he just wants to go and say hi, and that he wants me to give him a little commercial. Yes, people, that's my trainer. Okay. Yes, we all know that. We love him. We love Frank. But okay, here's the next question I have to ask you. We know that there are pockets of people out like the way we think, and they're all over the world. They are actually all over. Do you think that, and I always like to go and I always think about batteries. Do you think, and you talked about it earlier, do you think that if we could go and get everybody, all of us, in one single moment in time to go and open up, allow the downloads, allow this energy, this new healing energy to go forth, do you think that we would make any kind of impact on what's going on in the world today?
I do. And that is the whole point of Ascension Con, the whole point. Just going to events and seeing them slowly die out and knowing it's really not having anything to do with the event. It's all vibrational. And
Yes.
it's because we've
Yes.
reached a different state. We're looking for a different state. And Ascension Con was so important. I just wanted a gathering place where everybody could come have abundance, where the people could come for free and listen to amazing speakers with important information, and then making it free also for vendors so that everybody can gather together and commune together and give each other abundance. And remember why we started doing this whole thing in the first place.
Exactly.
It was to help other people and to be of service and to connect and give people light. And I think we've gotten away from that just with commercialization. And I think that's normal. That's just what we've done in the 3D.
Yes.
And it's time to just be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
I think so. Let me just put your ad up there. Ascension Con 26. I highly recommend it. I won't be able to do it this year, but hopefully in another year we'll all be together again, and we'll all be able to go and be a part of this wonderful, wonderful conceptual conference. And again, these are great. We're running out of time already, Mary. Already. I love this. This was a great conversation. And what I love the fact is I had 1,001 questions that I needed to be answered, and it's wonderful. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you guys. learn more about you, learn more about the Ascension, and where you go. Most importantly, where are you going to be in the next couple weeks,
Oh, the next couple of weeks.
or wherever
Well,
you know.
let me think. Well, we'll start from the beginning. If anybody wants to find information on Ascension Con, they can go to the website right there, mamamarythesacredcode.com. It has links to everything, information and details if they want to learn what it's about. Also, if they go to that website, they'll be able to find links to the services that I provide, from readings to my Xenia method, Reiki,
Yes.
energy work, all sorts of different things. And you can find me on Facebook.
We're all on Facebook.
Yeah.
Where are you
typical.
gonna? Where will you be next? What
Ooh.
event will you be at next?
At my next event will be at the Mystical Retreat up with Deb and RJ up north. And that is at the end of, right at the end of May, the last weekend of May.
Amazing.
And I think it's, I forget the name of the place. I always want to call it Birch Run, but I know it's not Birch Run. It is so incorrect. Maybe Deb's in there somewhere.
There she's jumping in there. That's our friend
Deb.
Deb. We love Deb. But you know what? If anybody wants to learn about that, jump on for Deb DeRuse or the Sacred
There you
Code,
go.
and you'll be able to find out more information about it. I highly recommend Deb. I highly recommend RJ. And I highly recommend our guest tonight, Mary Bassett, because they are the real deal. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. We got it. Birch Shores Retreat.
The Birch, right?
Listen, you were close. You were close. But that's great. Mary, I can't thank you enough. But I have one last question. You know what? A lot of people ask me about the question I always ask people that I love when I have a good guest on. When I have a great guest on, I always like to ask them a hard question. And I remember like Heather Taddy kind of stuttered, and I know Kat Weedman stuttered, and a couple other people stuttered, Dustin Perry, of course, never stutters because he's just a font of, fun things. So, excuse me here. Let me ask you this. End of it all, kiddo. End of it all. You got a little stone there. Your stone. What would your epitaph say? What would it be? What would this epitaph really want to convey of your personality and your work here on Earth?
Mama Mary.
That a girl. I love it. Fantastic.
I think that kind of just sums it up with unconditional love and holding space for other people.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Mary, stay on the line so I can thank you properly off the air. And everybody, we'll put that banner up real quickly one more time. Please check this out. Go there. The people that she has are top rate. Everyone is just wonderful. And I'm firmly a person who supports this and the fact that we are all part of the Ascension. We are all part of it. Accept it. Let's spread love and move on. Kiddo, I'll be right back. Mary's phenomenal. I have to say that I am so impressed by her. And I just absolutely love the whole concept. And it was funny because again, I'm just going to hit this again. I talked about it earlier in the show that I was kind of confused because I was thinking it might have been something else. I knew maybe what we were doing, but I wasn't, I wanted a little bit more clarification. And this is something that I know that I've worked for and worked towards almost my whole life, especially when I think back to the 80s in the Sahara isolation tanks and all the meditation and all the craziness that I went through in order to push myself to be a different style of a person. So guys, let me just go and say, no matter what people say to you, what the opinions are, no matter what's going on out there in the world, be kind, share a smile, And above all, we'll see you next week where the elite meet next to the dumpster transfer station. Guys, ciao. Take care. Love you all. See you next week, Tuesday. Bye-bye.